Shalom again, everybody. Rabbi Ariel here from the KosherTorah School, found online at KosherTorah.com. I want to continue our little discussions here by providing some insights into some of the more secret teachings of our prophetic tradition, because those secrets and what they conceal are about to become revealed to the world. When we look at the Bible and we read prophecy, we read Ezekiel chapter 38, speaks about the great war of Gog and Magog. You'll notice something in that chapter, that the names of the nations that are mentioned are actually the children of Noah that are referenced from Genesis in chapter 10. Now, you got to understand how prophecy works. Prophecy is not what we've been taught. It's not this linear type of expression. God spoke then and this happens now. Prophecy exists in a quantum state. It exists in a higher dimensional reality, where in which multiple applications all come true simultaneously. When God looks towards humanity, God sees the entire scope of human history. As such, when God looks at nations today, the United States, Russia, China, Iran, Turkey, India, Israel, he doesn't see, though, as we see it today. He sees the origins of people's souls, the origins of who and what they really are, that which we do not see ourselves. Before I continue, just let me give you one little insight you might not remember. How many tribes of Israel are there? There are 12. How many tribes of Israel do we know today? Really only two. Judah, who are the Jews, and the Levites, who are the Kohanim, the Levites, who are spread throughout Jews today. The identity of Jews and Judah, this goes back to the Babylonian exile, because a century before that, 700 BCE, so a long time ago, the identity of those who we call the lost tribes, well, for our point of view, are now lost. Now, there are many, many who are looking for the lost tribes. And yes, you will find evidence of the lost tribes amongst Native Americans. You will find them certainly in many of the different peoples in Africa. We see them amongst the Pashtun. We see them in India, in China, and certainly throughout Europe. Today, if your heart and soul find some type of association with God and the Bible, maybe through your different religions, it's very possibly that if we could trace your genealogy way back, 3,000 plus years to Sinai, very possible that your ancestry stood at Mount Sinai. There are still 12 tribes of Israel. God knows who they are. And when the time comes, God will bring them back together. And that is exactly what we may be seeing happening right now. Remember, Jews today, we practice rabbinic Judaism. This is our religion and our faith. And it was revolved around the tribe of Judah. Where's everybody else? Well, God knows. God has a plan to gather in his people. We need to understand right now that there is an agenda. Nation is lining up against nation. This is just like the prophecy predicted. There is a plan. There is an agenda. And we need to understand that this is real and not make-believe. A point that I've long made to my audience through Ancient Aliens is that which we understand is the biblical agenda. Oh, and a lot of my religious peers don't like this, but that which we know as the extraterrestrial agenda, they're all one and the same. We read in the book of Daniel about the Watchers, the Ariel Kadosh, and we are told that they are by divine design, by God's ordinance, in charge. They are the governors of this world. They do as God commands. And as we see from prophecies. God is the one bringing the nations to fight one another for an agenda. God is the one who is behind it all. But remember, God's kind of like all the way up at the top. They're the steps through whom God works in creation, kind of like a government. And we human beings are subject to those authorities, whether we like it or not. They are referred to in the Bible as the sons of God. You read about them in Job chapter 1. You also read about a rebellious faction of them from Genesis. Chapter 6 came down and, took human women and all the rest. Yeah, the Nephilim, they're all still here. The hybrids, they're very, very much here. All of this needs to be cleansed. The identity of the tribes need to be resurrected. Those who have usurped power here need to be removed. These things are happening simultaneously because prophecy, like I said, is quantum, and it's happening many things all at once. That is why we seem to be rushing towards things. What happened in Israel with the attacks by Hamas were unprecedented. Haven't seen things like that since the Holocaust. But this started something, as we know. And everyone now is taking a deep breath because they recognize that this is taking on a life of its own. And you can, if you choose, point the finger towards Israel, towards the east, towards the west, and say, this one's at fault, that one's at fault. If only we do this, if only we do that, then there will be peace. This is not a time for peace. And all of the great ideas and suggestions or fingers of blame are irrelevant now, because the watchers are watching you. They are going to decide where you belong and what side you are going to fall upon in this great conflict. Way back in the day, when God wanted to introduce himself into human history, he manipulated Pharaoh, the leader of Egypt. You know those stories of Moses in the Exodus. And he's, oh, poor Pharaoh, he didn't deserve that. God decides what people do and do not deserve, whether you like it or not. From the old saying, your hands are too short to box with God. So you can say, I'm not religious, I don't believe, or God this or God that. It doesn't matter. You're fighting with forces with whom, in their eyes, you are nothing more than an insignificant little insect. All of us, right? Tola'at ya'akol. We're like little worms. We are the children. We are the sheep. No, not to be slaughtered, but to be corralled by our shepherd. And the time of the great Havdalah, separation, is upon us. You see it. I warned about the dark cloud, this irrational, emotional hatred. It's not just towards the Jews. It's towards anyone who believes in the Bible. I've shared with many of my Christian friends, my Christian neighbors, especially those who are in the outreach programs, right? As much as we oppose missionary activity in the Jewish community, I share with my Christian brothers and sisters, I said, you guys have always wanted to be the grafted into our tree, Book of Romans, they know what I'm talking about. Well, guess what? You're now the new Jews, and you're going to face the same prejudice and the same hatred as we Jews do. And they are. Look at what modern Christians are having to face here in Western civilization, all because of their faith. And this is true of the evangelicals, of the Mormons, and even in certain segments of the Catholic Church, right? Because our society for the last 100 years or more has been under a deep, dark cloud, an evil force, believe it or not, but a force still ordained by God. God ordains evil. Genesis 45, verse 7, God's in charge of it all. And that force is that anti-God spirit. And that is why America, for example, is isolated and called the Great Satan. There is still a lot of religious and devout people in this country. And you're right, America is still very corrupt and still very bad. We know it. No denying all of that. And for those who want to wave the Israeli flag, well, look at the secular Zionist state. Yeah, they've done a lot of good. Everybody does a lot of good. But that doesn't make all the bad move away. And all the lies that are told about Israel and all the lies that are told about America, it's all to attack that which is good. The family as being the foundational stability of the human being. I'm talking with a human male father, female mother, children, normal stuff. It's all being attacked now. That is this dark force. That dark force and the forces that are bringing the nations together are one and the same. You need to understand that. For those of us who are religious, might say, well, it's demonic forces. Okay, call it however you wish, but know that it's there. And I will remind you in the wise words of the Torah, as God spoke to Abraham, God said, I will bless those who bless you, and I will curse those who curse you. And there are those who say, well, those blessings and curses, now they apply to me or my group. Okay, whatever. They apply to those who are righteous and to those who are evil. You know the old saying, united we stand, or divided we fall. This is the time to put aside arguments of doctrine and theology and to recognize that we stand together as righteous human beings who believe in God, believe in the Bible, and instead of presenting a theology or a doctrine, we actually, if you will, preach a morality, a universal message of righteous, moral, decent behavior, which applies to everybody. It doesn't matter what nation we want to call ourselves, by what identity we go by today. God knows who is who. And that is what's most important. And it's these separations that are being drawn today because the lines are being marked. If you will, God is coming back to be reintroduced into human history. Now, I'm not speaking about the coming of the Messiah. And I don't know if the coming of the Messiah, if it's going to be Mashiach or the Christians' Jesus or Islam's Al-Mahdi, how all of these religious scenarios will play out. That's God's business, not ours. So ultimately, we will see what will be. And the Christians are waiting for their Antichrist. Of course, Islam is waiting for Al-Dajjal, their Antichrist, who they think is America. And in the Torah tradition, we also are familiar with this character called Armilos. You can go Google this stuff. It's all out there. I've written about it. Others have spoken about it. That's not the point, because we're not necessarily looking for individuals, because Al-Dajjal, the Antichrist, Armilos, doesn't have to be a person. It can be like the book of Daniel speaks about the little horn that rises up and conquers the three kings. I write about this in my book, Visions. The three kings are traditionally understood as not individuals, but world systems. I think today we would identify them as communism, socialism, and capitalism. What is this new form of government, this new world order, which is rising up to speak blasphemously against heaven? Well, all of this is by divine design. I discuss this in detail in my book, Visions. And you know what? I got a copy of it here. There we go. Yeah. This is it. You can get it on Amazon. It's my commentary to the chapters in Daniel and expansions of understanding prophecy. Where we are at today, like I said, the extraterrestrial reality, the biblical reality, they're one and the same. Got to wake up and recognize this. We're in the convergence. For those of you who are waiting for the great disclosure, it's coming all right, but it might not be what you think, and it very well might not be what you like. So hear me now. Recognize the forces that are active in this world. For those of you who do not look to the Bible or condemn the Bible or reject the Bible, you need to start looking at the Bible from a different point of view, as opposed to those who are on the fundamentalist religious side. We're all religions, we all are fundamentalists, or those who are on the opposite side, speaking derogatorily and denouncing and spreading lies. All right. The fundamentalist will give you a very literalist point of view and tell you take it or leave it. It's not so black and white in any of our religions. And the other side, which is opposing, telling lies, also not like that. You need to see. You need to go back to the scriptures, if you will, read them without prejudice, not as an academic exercise, but if you will, from your heart. Every one of you, you should say a simple prayer. God, are you really there? If so, speak to me. Because God's not up there somewhere out in heaven. God is not an extraterrestrial. God is not the Anunnaki or this mythology that Zecharia Sitchin created. Sorry, guys, it is really a myth, but I'm not going to get into that right now. That which we call God is the awareness of a sentient universe. It's existing within each and every cell within our body. We call it the divine presence. In the Hebrew, we call it the dwelling, the Shekhinah. This is a living, active, vibrant, and real consciousness. And many people from around the world, different nations throughout the centuries, have always experienced this. This is nothing Jewish. This is not even anything biblical. This goes far beyond that. This is global, universal. And people from around the world in different traditions of experiential meditations have experienced this. I write my books about this for people to experience this. Because for me to give you a message and saying, trust me, believe me, who the heck am I? Why on earth would you listen to me? All I would ask is that you listen to yourselves. All I ask is that you seek out the truth of the divine personally, beyond all the facades, all the husks, all the shells, all the garments that we place. Get to the core. And if you get to that core and stand on the solid foundations of what is real, then you will look about what's happening in the world today, and you would recognize that the real, in quote, second coming has nothing to do with Christianity or any religion. It's, if you will, a second coming of the revelation of God in human history, just like it was in the days of Moses and Pharaoh. God is behind this. God is setting up what is happening. And that's why there's this apparent mad rush, lack of rationality. Because those who've embraced the dark side, their reward or punishment, depending on your point of view, will be the same hardening of heart of Pharaoh. And they will witness the same destruction of their Egypt as did Pharaoh. And God will make his name great and sanctified. Again, prophecy of Ezekiel, because God's reintroducing himself into history. As for the war with Israel, well, as it says, God will fight and you will be silent. Yes, the valiant soldiers of the Israeli army will do their share in defending the nation and the people, but it's God who's fighting this battle. And this battle is in the hearts and the souls of every one of us. The lines are being drawn. That prejudice and evil and anger in your hearts, that will choose your side for you. The love, the righteousness, and the submission to God that's in your hearts, that will choose the side for you. Choose which side you belong on, guys, because for many, it's already been chosen. There's a higher hand going on. It's real. The disclosure, the real one, is coming. It's not going to be what anybody thinks. It's not going to be what anybody wants, but it's going to be the truth. And for those who align their hearts properly with God in this traditional old school prophetic way, based upon righteousness, you will know, you will see. Let me conclude it on that note. Thank you again all for listening to me, and God's blessings. I pray that righteousness prevail. I pray that the innocent be protected. And I pray for truth to be exposed. And I pray that light shine. But remember something about light. It both brings healing and death. And that's really what we need. We need the death of evil in this world. And God is the one who's going to decide how that's going to come about. Not you, not me, not any of us. May God's name be sanctified and made great, as we say in Hebrew, Yitkadal, Yitkadash, Shemerabah. Thank you all. YouTube talk. If you like the video, click like, subscribe to our channel, all that blah, blah, blah stuff. I really hate to have to do that because I'm not here as just that. I really, let me be blunt. I really give it damn. I want to see freedom, real freedom, the way it's supposed to be. God's blessings. I know that only the power of God's going to make that happen. So I want to conclude with those words. Yitkadash, Shemerabah. Thank you again all. Shalom.